Some families have lit the same 2 candles every Friday night for 400 years and never once asked why. It was simply what a grandmother did, and her grandmother before her. The pork that never touched the table, the mirror covered after a death. Small habits passed down like worn coins, their meaning rubbed away by time. Then someone takes a DNA test, and the map lights up over Spain and Portugal, and suddenly the candles have a name. They were Shabbat candles all along. And here is the part that should make you sit up. In case after case, the clue was sitting in plain sight the whole time. It was the family's last name. Today, we are counting down 15 surnames with documented Jewish history behind them, names pulled from Inquisition trials, synagogue registries, and the official rolls Spain and Portugal use today. Count how many are in your family tree. Number 15, Cohen. We start with a name that wears its history openly, though most people never read it. Cohen comes straight from the Hebrew Cohen, meaning priest, and by tradition, it marks a family descended from the temple priesthood in Jerusalem. The line of Aaron, the brother of Moses. That is not a poetic flourish. It is one of the oldest hereditary claims on earth, a status passed father to son for 3,000 years, carried through every exile the Jewish people ever endured. The name scattered into dozens of forms as families moved: Cohn, Khan, Kagan, Cowan, Coin, each one a clerk's attempt at the same ancient word. Modern genetics even found a thread of truth in it. A 1,997 study discovered that many men named Cohen, whether their families came from Poland or Morocco, share a distinct cluster of markers on the Y chromosome, pointing back toward a common ancestor. The name does not guarantee priestly blood, but if your family is Cohen in any spelling, that quiet surname may be a 3,000-year-old title hiding behind an ordinary mailbox. Number 14, Levi. If Cohen is the priest, Levi is the priest's right hand. The name comes from the Hebrew Levi, the third son of Jacob, and it marks descent from the tribe of Levi, the Israelites set apart to guard the temple, to sing the sacred music, and to assist the priests in every rite at the altar. It is the second most common surname in Israel today, just behind Cohen, and like Cohen, it travels under many faces. Levi, Levin, Lewin, Levinson, Halevi, each one a branch of the same 3,000-year-old tribal root. On old headstones you can sometimes see the sign of it, a pitcher carved into the stone, the vessel a Levite used to wash the hands of the priests before the blessing. Not every Levi descends from the tribe. The name was sometimes taken or adopted along the way. But unlike most surnames, this one rarely wandered into families that had no claim to it. If your name is Levi, the odds are strong that your ancestors once stood in the temple, singing. Number 13, Kaplan. Here, the disguise begins. Kaplan sounds like it could come from anywhere. German, Polish, even Irish, if you say it quickly. And that ordinariness is exactly why so many families chose it. Kaplan descends from the Latin capellanus, meaning chaplain, a priest, and across Eastern Europe it was adopted by families of Cohen descent as a translated form of their priestly name. A Cohen who wanted a surname that blended into the local registry could become a kaplan and lose nothing of what the name meant. It said priest in a language the neighbors understood. When the Russian Empire forced its Jewish subjects to take fixed surnames in the 19th century, thousands of priestly families reached for exactly this word, local on the surface, ancient underneath. From Lithuania, the name spread to Ukraine. Then across the ocean, where kaplans became scholars, performers, and merchants who never gave the name a second thought. If you are a kaplan and never imagined a Jewish branch on your tree, the name has been quietly insisting otherwise for 2 centuries, carrying the priesthood under a Latin coat. Number 12, Stone. Now the list reaches into names you would swear were simply English, plain as a stone wall. And for many families, that is the whole truth. But for a great many others, stone is not English at all. It is a translation, the American ending of a German and Yiddish name that began as Stein. When Jewish immigrants poured through Ellis Island and the ports of the East Coast in the late 1800s and early 1900s, they walked into a country that did not always welcome them, where the wrong name could close a door at a university, a law firm, or a hotel. So the names were trimmed and turned into English. Bernstein became Stone, or Bernstein became Burns. Stein on its own became Stone. Greenstein, Rothstein, Weinstein, all could shed their German tail and arrive as something that sounded born and raised American. The change was so complete that the Jewish branch simply vanished into the larger English one, indistinguishable. If your Stone family came across from Europe in those decades, it is worth asking what the name was before the boat, because the answer may still be sitting on a ship's manifest, ending in Stein. Number 11. Green. Green is one of the most common surnames in the English-speaking world, and most Greens have deep and genuine English roots, tied to the village Green or a meadow long ago. But a substantial number of American Green families did not start there at all. They started as Greenberg, Greenbaum, Grunfeld, or Grunspan, Jewish names out of Germany, Poland, and Russia that were clipped short at the immigration desk or trimmed by the immigrants themselves within a generation of landing. Color names like green, gold, silver, and black were favorites during the forced surname registrations of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and there is a hard history beneath that. Officials are documented to have charged Jewish families for the pleasant-sounding names, the flowers and gems and greens, while handing the ugly ones free of charge to those who could not pay. So a name like Green was sometimes literally purchased, a small price for a shred of dignity. If your Green ancestors came through New York or Philadelphia out of Eastern Europe, the longer original name may still be waiting on a ship's manifest, its first half intact, Green, in 2 languages at once. Number 10. Miller. Miller is the perfect camouflage, one of the 10 most common surnames in the United States, as plain and English-sounding as a name can be. And that is exactly what makes it such an effective hiding place. Miller is the direct translation of the German Müller and the Yiddish Miller, and milling grain was one of the few trades open to Jews across much of Central and Eastern Europe, in centuries when most professions were locked shut to them by law. So tens of thousands of Jewish mullers and millers stepped off the boat, translated the one syllable that needed translating, and became millers indistinguishable from their neighbors. One of the towering figures of the American theater, the playwright behind Death of a Salesman, came from precisely this kind of family. Polish Jews whose name dissolved without a trace into the American mainstream. That is the strange power of Miller. It does not only hide a family's Jewish past from the outside world, it hides it from the family itself, behind a name so ordinary no one ever thinks to question it. If you are a Miller, the mill your ancestors worked may have stood on the Vistula, not the Mississippi. Number 9. Franco. Franco is one of history's strangest surname ironies. Most people hear it and think of Francisco Franco, the Spanish dictator, a name that sounds like the furthest thing from Jewish. Yet Franco is a documented Sephardic surname carried openly by Jewish families across Spain, Portugal, Italy, and the Ottoman Empire for centuries. Jewish Francos appear in synagogue records from Livorno to Salonika to Istanbul, their name sometimes marking a family as Franco, free, exempt from certain taxes, or signaling an old French origin. After the expulsion from Spain in 1492, Franco families scattered across the Mediterranean and held the name proudly in the Ottoman lands, where Jews were welcomed and could pray without hiding. Meanwhile, back in Spain, conversos carrying the very same name folded quietly into Catholic society, the Jewish thread tucked out of sight. Today, Franco turns up throughout Latin America, the Philippines, and the American Southwest, and a meaningful share of those families trace back to ancestors who once prayed in Ladino, the Spanish Hebrew tongue of Sepharad. If your name is Franco, the irony runs deep. It may be one of the most openly Jewish names on this list. Number 8. Leon. Leon looks like a simple Spanish place name, lifted from the old kingdom of Leon in the north of Spain, and for many families that is all it is. But the word carries a second meaning that Jewish families understood perfectly well. Leon means lion, and the lion is the ancient emblem of the tribe of Judah, the royal tribe, the line of King David himself. Jewish families across Spain carried Leon, and its variants, de Leon and Leon, and the name appears again and again in Inquisition records of accused Judaizers, secret Jews caught keeping the old faith behind closed doors. The same lion roamed north into Yiddish-speaking Europe, where the symbolism resurfaced as Log, Lo, Lieb, and Levovitz, the German and Hebrew words for lion stitched into surname after surname. One animal, one tribe, two continents, a single thread of royalty running underneath. There is even a rabbi in El Paso who has spent his career helping Hispanic families of the Southwest uncover converso roots they never knew they had. If your family is Leon and the trail runs back to Spain, Mexico, or the borderlands, the lion in your name may be the Lion of Judah. Before I show you the last part of this list, if you have ever looked at your own results and wondered where Sephardic ancestry fits into your bloodline, I put it all together in a guide called Where Do You Really Come From? The link is in the description. But stay right here, because what comes next is the part most people completely miss. Number 7. Carvajal. This name comes with the most haunting story on the list, and it is not legend, it is court record. Luis de Carvajal the Elder was a converso who rose to become governor of a vast frontier province of colonial Mexico in the 1580s. His nephew, Luis de Carvajal the Younger, secretly practiced Judaism in the shadow of the Inquisition's own headquarters in Mexico City, and kept a tiny handwritten memoir of his hidden faith, small enough to conceal in his hat. Those pages are the earliest known Jewish writings in all of the Americas. In 1596, the Inquisition burned him at the stake alongside his mother and sisters, after torture forced him to name more than 100 other secret Jews. The Carvajal name survived in Mexico and across Latin America, carried by relatives who escaped the fire by living, publicly and convincingly, as Catholics. 4 centuries later, families named Carvajal are among those finding Sephardic DNA they cannot otherwise explain. The Inquisition kept meticulous records. Those records are now the proof. Number 6. Mendes. The name Mendes, and its Spanish form Mendes, is stamped across the golden age of the Sephardic world. The most powerful woman in 16th century Jewish life carried it, Doña Gracia Nasi, born into a family of Portuguese conversos, who inherited one of Europe's great banking fortunes, and turned it into something close to a rescue operation. From her base in Antwerp, she built an escape network, moving conversos out of Spain and Portugal on her own spice ships, guiding them over the Alps to Venice and onward to safety in the Ottoman Empire, beyond the reach of the Inquisition. The House of Mendes lent money to kings while its founders quietly kept the faith they were forced to deny. After her, the name traveled everywhere the diaspora went, to Amsterdam, the Caribbean, Brazil, and back across Latin America. And yes, that means the surname of a certain Canadian pop star and a celebrated American filmmaker sits squarely on the documented Sephardic rolls. Not every Mendes descends from secret Jews. The name became common across the Portuguese-speaking world. But its Jewish history is not a theory. It is banking ledgers, rescue routes, and Inquisition files. Number 5. Medina. Medina looks like pure Spanish geography, and in part it is, since towns named Medina dot the map of Spain. But the word itself is not Spanish at all. It comes from a Semitic root meaning city, Medina, in both Arabic and Hebrew, and it was carried heavily by Jewish families in Spain long before 1492. After the expulsion, Sephardic Medinas appear across the whole scattered world of the diaspora, from Morocco to the Ottoman Empire to the ports of the Americas. One branch produced Sir Solomon de Medina, who in the year 1700 became the first Jew ever knighted in England, a financier who bankrolled and supplied the armies of the Duke of Marlborough and rode with him on campaign. Today, Medina is everywhere in the Spanish-speaking world, and the great majority of those families have no Jewish connection at all. But when a Medina family also remembers a grandmother who covered the mirrors after a death, or refused pork without ever explaining why, or lit candles as Friday fell, the name stops being a coincidence and starts becoming a clue worth following back across the water. Number 4. Castro. Castro means castle, taken from the Latin for a fortress or walled town, and like most place names, it was carried by Christians and Jews alike, so on its own, it proves nothing. But Castro sits on the documented lists of surnames borne by Jewish families before the expulsion from Spain, and the scholars who compiled those lists made the point in the bluntest way possible, by pointing to the most famous bearer of all, Fidel Castro. The Cuban leader himself acknowledged more than once that his own ancestry likely ran back to conversos, descendants of Spanish Jews forced into Catholicism, and his daughter has said one of his grandfathers was a Jew from Istanbul. Jewish Castros are extensively documented in Inquisition trials, in the Sephardic communities of Amsterdam and the Caribbean, and in the records used today to grant Spanish and Portuguese citizenship to descendants of expelled Jews. The name is now carried by millions across Latin America. And given the genetic studies showing that nearly 1 in 5 Iberian men carry Sephardic paternal ancestry, a staggering number of those Castros are walking around with a hidden chapter folded into their family story. Number 3. Perez. Perez is one of the most common surnames in the entire Spanish-speaking world, and most of the time the explanation is simple. It means son of Pedro, son of Peter, a plain Spanish patronymic with no Jewish thread at all. But that is not the whole story, because Perez is also the Spanish form of the Hebrew name Perez, a son of Judah in the book of Genesis and a direct ancestor of King David himself. Jewish Perez families lived in Spain long before the expulsion, and after 1492, the name traveled in both directions at once. Openly Jewish, Perez families flourished in the Ottoman Empire and across North Africa, while converso Perez families dissolved quietly into Catholic Spain and its colonies. The name later produced an Israeli president, born Persky, who took Perez as his own. So the truth here is double-edged and worth saying plainly. Most of the millions named Perez today descend from a Christian Pedro. But the Jewish Perez line runs through this name like a buried river, and DNA testing keeps bringing it back to the surface in families who never suspected a thing. Number 2. Espinosa. In 1632, in the Portuguese Jewish quarter of Amsterdam, a boy was born into a family of refugees, conversos who had fled Portugal and returned openly to Judaism the moment they reached free soil. The family name was Espinosa. The boy was Baruch Espinosa, known to history as Baruch Spinoza, one of the most influential philosophers who ever lived. The name itself comes from Espino, the thorn bush, a Spanish place name carried by numerous converso families, and Spinoza's own family is one of the clearest paper trails in all of Sephardic history. Their journey traceable from forced Catholicism in Portugal back to open Jewish life in Amsterdam. From there, the name spread across Spain, Mexico, South America, and the American Southwest. And among the conversos of the Southwest, Espinosa turns up again and again, attached to exactly those quiet, unexplained traditions, the Friday candles, the absent pork, that anthropologists have spent decades carefully documenting. If your name is Espinosa, you share it with a philosopher whose family chose exile and freedom over erasure, and whose record survives, intact, 400 years on. And here is number 1, the name nobody sees coming. Davis, the 7th most common surname in the United States, the name of a Confederate president, of Hollywood legends, of millions of utterly Anglo-American families. Davis means exactly what it looks like, son of David. And that is precisely the point. Davis, Davis, Davidson, Davidoff. In every country and every century, Jewish families built patronymic surnames from David, the shepherd who became Israel's greatest king. When Jewish immigrants reached England and America, names like Davidovich and Davidson were trimmed, again and again, into Davis. Invisible, instantly local, completely safe. One of the great entertainers of the 20th century, born into a different name entirely, converted to Judaism and joked that he was only completing the circle his name had always pointed toward. The great majority of people named Davis descend from Welsh and English Davids, and that is real. But thousands of American Davis families are only 2 or 3 generations removed from a David that was Hebrew, not Welsh. The most Jewish royal lineage there is, son of David, hiding inside one of the most American names there is. So, how many did you count? One name in your family tree means very little on its own, but a name from this list, set beside the other quiet signs, a DNA result that points towards Sephardic, candles lit on Friday that nobody could explain, pork that never once reached the table, a mirror covered after a death. That is the moment a name stops being a coincidence and becomes a doorway. Spain and Portugal believed the expulsion of 1,492 would close the book on Jewish life within their borders. Instead, it scattered that life into millions of family trees, where it waited, patient and silent, in a custom, in a gene, in a surname, for someone to finally ask the question. The Inquisition could burn the people. It could not burn the names. Tell us in the comments, is your name on this list? Or is there a surname in your family you have always quietly wondered about? Your ancestors hid these names to survive. You only have to look at one to remember them.